June 8th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini on the 2000 tick chart on the NinjaTrader 8 platform. You don't have to look at you don't have to watch this whole video. Just go down to the descriptions below where I timestamped all the places where I thought I saw setups, as well as where I took my trades. Just a quick disclaimer, I make no claims to be an expert at this. It's purely for, well, first and foremost, it's purely for myself to archive my trading. And for everybody else, this is purely for entertainment purposes only. So proceed with caution. Trading futures is risky, and so I do not promote anybody following me or taking any of what I say as advice or any kind of financial advice of any kind. So with that being said, I'm just going to go into my chart review now. There was only one trade that I took today, and it was green. And similar to yesterday, it was interesting because yesterday had this very, very big sell-off, and today had this very, very big rally. But unfortunately, even with this big rally, I didn't find very good places to get an entry. So as you can see, my chart isn't marked up with too many entries, unfortunately. Mainly due to my experience level. There might have been setups that I saw that I didn't mark that might have been good, but I just marked the ones that I thought were a setup that, whether I took it or not, I kind of describe. If I didn't take it, most likely it was because it just didn't quite look right, at least with my current level of experience. With other people more experienced, they might have thought it was a perfect trade. And there was just one trade that I took, and then one that I kind of missed. And unfortunately, that one was down here, and it looked like it ran up pretty well. So here we go. This is the pre-market highs and lows. I actually had the pre-market low a little bit lower right here. But then later I dragged it up to here when I saw this confirmation and this confirmation. And I thought perhaps it was going to be in this trading range for the rest of the day. But actually, after about 30 minutes, prices started to rally. And then it kind of stalled out and then sold off to about right here, about 10:30 Pacific Standard. Then into the close, it was very slow price action. So here we go. So this is a pre-market. I'm not trading the pre-market mainly because this is Pacific Standard Time. So I'm typically not awake over here at 2 a.m. to try to catch any trades. On top of that, volume and volatility is usually pretty low. There was only one piece of economic data that came out today. It was the unemployment claims that came out at 5:30 Pacific Standard. And as you can see right around here, it did kind of cause the market to rally about 5 points, which really in the grand scheme of things isn't that much. So whether you want to say it caused a shock to the market or not, it's kind of up to you, but it doesn't matter to me, mainly because I'm not trading at this time anyways. So it has no effect on my trading or trading strategy. So this is the obvious top. I mean, you could say the actual top of the pre-market's up here, but I like to draw it where I see more confirmations. So on the market open, prices kind of grinded up and broke out of this shortened trend channel. Then it came back, overshot, and came back to the other side. Tried to make one push up and a second push up, and it did try to test the highs, but it didn't quite make it. It was stopped by this resistance created by the top of this pre-market trading range. And then prices came back down. There's no clear entry. I mean, you could say it's the first entry long, second entry long, but it looks very, very jarbled and very, very congested. Same thing here. If you look at a bigger time frame, you could say this is the first entry long, pulls back, and a second entry long, and then a failure. But I saw that, but I didn't think it was a clean setup still, so I just didn't take any trades. Then prices continued to move. I saw this new low, saw first entry long, new low, testing the bottom. Now remember, at the time, I actually had my pre-market low down here. So when it touched one more time here and it touched a second time, that's when I dragged it up to here. So that still didn't yield me any good entry because you can say a new high, first entry long, and that's all you get. So you came up to here and I did see this. I saw this as a new high. It's a first entry long. It kind of makes a double top, ticks one tick higher, and then it pulls back and then makes a second entry long. And then you can see there's like 3 candles that are touching the same spot, and only this one candle broke up higher. So it is like one leg down, pulls back a second leg down. I saw this trade. I thought it might have been a possible trade, but I didn't want to take it at the time. It looked aggressive. There's a good signal bar, but it felt a little congested. These guys are all side by side. And the signal bar itself, which is this guy, is an inside bar of this red candle. So I just wasn't very certain what I was looking at, even though it bounced off the EMA. But as you can tell, it's the first bounce off the EMA, while previously it was chopping above and below, and it was kind of like being rejected, but it wasn't even a strong rejection because prices did move up and break above, came back down. So granted, this is technically a second entry long. It's a good signal bar, but it just didn't quite set up right. So I decided to leave it alone. Prices move up. It breaks out of this pre-market trading range that I had as an overshoot, comes back down, and you can see this crazy side-by-side action, right? So you could say it's a new high, first entry long, second entry long, but it's all kind of hitting the same level. When I did see this, I saw this kind of this, I call it, it looks like piano keys, right? You have the black and white piano keys, or in this case, green and red, and then lining up side by side. And I did notice that these are creating higher lows, but then the highs are all at the same. So I suspected prices are being pushed up by the bulls, and there's probably stops from people going short right here because they might have thought this is a failed breakout and prices would come back down to here. So I was actually tempted to drop in a buy order to go long right here and potentially ride it up for about 1 point up to here. But I did notice that this is at 42.7625. So to get a full point, I needed it to go to 42.7750 to ensure I got a full point move, which is about right here. So I saw this, and in the past, I kind of had a bad habit of just anticipating that would happen without a very good setup. Now, granted, this is kind of intuition, so I had the intuition to maybe take this trade. However, I didn't take it because there wasn't really technically following the rules or had a good clean setup. So I didn't take the trade, but in this case, it worked out. I mean, if you did take the trade, it would have flashed up and gotten you in. So I'm not going to question, or dwell on this too much because I'll just watch it more because for whatever reason, I didn't quite feel, if there was an actual setup, like comes down, first entry long, pulls back, and it wasn't as congested and it had a second entry long, I would have felt more comfortable because EMA is holding, but I'm basing the hypothetical trade off of this consolidation. And even if there are stops here, there's no guarantee that this couldn't have been one leg consolidation and a second leg down. So that's just something I wanted to point out. I also put it in the description, but it's like no trade there. It's just like what I call like a hunch or just something I've seen in the past. Then prices continue moving up, chops around. It just gives you only really first entries. This is actually a third entry here. It's like a new high, first entry long, second entry long, third entry long. Or you can say one leg down, pulls back, a second leg down, it consolidates, and it moves back up. It's a little messy, so I didn't want to take that trade. Then I also drew the resistance up here because I noticed that it's touched once, twice, 3 times. So I drew the resistance up here. And at the time, I wasn't really sure where the bottom was. So I actually had it a little bit higher, kind of up here at the time. But then I eventually dragged it down to touch here, and you're going to know why, because it did touch pretty nicely down here in its second touch there. So when this one formed, I actually had an overlapping situation where it was a little messy, but I knew what was going on. I can't say I knew what was going on, but I kind of saw what was going on. So I had an overlapping set of channels going up because I had one down here and I thought, okay, maybe if this is just a spike in a channel, this might just be a small break outside. So then I was just watching prices continue to chop, makes a double top, first entry long, comes down. I saw this other setup. So when it came down here, I decided this channel here actually should go away. And I decided that it was going to be the touches down here, touch one here, and touch one there to be the actual official channel. What I did see is a double top here. So it's new high, first entry long, and I'm watching for a very careful second entry long here. I would have put my trade up here. I saw this. It was a good signal bar. It's a triple test off this bottom here. It's 1, 2, 3. I don't have a range yet, but I do have a support right here. And so I just sat there and I was thinking, okay, this looks pretty decent. It's bounced off the bottom of the channel, but the channel is a bit, it's kind of shallow, it's kind of gradually moving up. So I wasn't super convinced this is a valid channel yet because it could still break out. So I waited. When it flashed up, I thought, okay, certainly, I'm not going to take a trade here because it feels like I'm running right into the EMA. I was looking for a higher low confirmation. So you don't get it yet. It is confirming the second entry long, and you had a triple test. pulls back here. And when it pulled back and flashed up, I thought, okay, here is the higher low confirmation. Prices are still going up, and I don't really have the top of a trading range yet. So I don't know if it's trading range, but I do know there is a channel here. So there's enough room to get to the top. So I was thinking about it. I decided I want to take the trade, but I wasn't going to take it one tick above. I actually dropped my order a little bit lower, kind of right at the EMA, hoping it'd come down, touch it, and pick me up. But it doesn't. So I was a little too optimistic. I should have just trusted this signal bar and placed it one tick here. And of course, the trade goes on without me. Turns out to be a pretty good trade because it just keeps going up. So this is a missed trade because I didn't trust that this was a good enough signal bar for the higher low, but it turns out it was a perfect signal bar because it closed above the EMA. So I should have just dropped my order right here, but I was getting a little too optimistic and actually dropped my order right down here where the EMA was, hoping I get a little bit better fill, like it open, flash down a little bit and go back up. But there was no reason to do that. So that's kind of a lesson learned. Just like if the market's giving you an opportunity, just take it and don't try to cheat the market or take something even more. It might have happened, might not have happened, but everything was telling me this is a decent trade because it's coming off the support, it's coming off this triple test. It confirmed the second entry long. So there was no reason to try to, just to get a better fill. Yes, I might have, gotten about earlier, but from here to the top here was clearly enough room to get that scalp. So that's kind of a lesson learned, not to be stingy. And also, I did follow the rules, but I, in this case, was too optimistic. When prices continue moving up, I like that it's touching this and it's fitting really well now. Prices go up, it touches another time. So I'm pretty sure, we're clearly in a bullish uptrend now, a rally, and it's touching and pretty much floating inside this trend channel very nicely. But I don't see any good clean setups. I was looking for any kind of pullback, second entry to go long, and here, this is what I saw kind of forming. This is weird doji caterpillar looking thing because it's like a new high, get a first entry long here. Technically you have a second entry long, but this is a pretty terrible looking signal bar. So I didn't take it, but then you look at this and this is again, continuation of these pretty indecisive candles. So you don't really know which way the market's going to go. It has a bullish bias, but it also touched the top so many times now. So it could make a one leg down, consolidate in a second leg down, or it could come down, bounce off the EMA and continue going up. I don't know, so I don't take a trade. Prices continue moving. So now it breaks out. So I'm thinking it breaks out. It might want to touch the bottom of this channel before it bounces. It doesn't quite make it, goes up, it touched the top, and now it's looking like it's in a trading range. Now it breaks out, so it got to here. It didn't really bounce because I saw this, and I'm wondering if it's going to bounce. But if it does bounce, there's no trade here for me because there's no second entries. It would just be a bounce. Fortunately, it doesn't leave me questioning it. It just flashes through, and it bounces right back up, but there's still no entry. I do see this. I saw a new high here, first entry long, second entry long. This is actually where I took my first trade. So this is a second entry long on this candle, which is a pretty good signal bar. And then I wanted to take the trade, but I also knew it just came off of this real quick and it made an overshoot. So it could make a one push up. And I wasn't sure if the pull down was completed to make a second pull up. So I saw the second entry long. I waited. It came down. It's technically still a second entry long. It hasn't failed yet. Now this one's giving me confidence that it's bouncing off the bottom of this trend channel. So I got my order ready at the original signal bar here, one tick above. I get filled right here, and then it chops around. My exit's down here, which is, down at the most obvious low where I thought, people would, prices would, if they get down to here, then definitely it's going to get stopped out. But then I was fortunate enough, it flashes up and I was able to get out. I definitely want to get out before this high because I was thinking there might be a potential triple test because I noticed prices, when they're moving up, they're touching the top and bottoms of the trading range and then touching the top so many times. But then on this push, it failed to make it back to the top. So I was concerned taking a long, would it have enough power to make it past this obvious resistance? So I definitely wanted to get out before then. Not just one tick, but maybe a couple ticks just to be sure that I got my scalp. And that's what I did. Prices end up flowing higher and actually touches the other side. So it was a very strong bullish move. So I also saw this new low, first entry short, second entry short, and it fails. The second entry short failure is also, I think, as a confirmation that prices were going up kind of like the higher low also right here would have confirmed the second entry long because it'd be a new high here, first entry long, second entry long, and then also a higher low right here. So it's actually a failed second entry short and a higher low. I didn't take this trade mainly because I was already in the trade right here and I finally got out. So this was a second opportunity if I had missed this entry to probably jump in on this trade. Although this one I wouldn't feel as confident as this one, mainly because this one was bearish, so it confirms the second entry short, and this one fails it. So, failing it means you might have to take it one tick above here, but then you're even closer to the potential top resistance. So this is a potential trade here, but I didn't feel, well, one thing is I was already in the trade. The second thing is if I wasn't in the trade, I might have hesitated because I wasn't 100% sure it'd be here. Definitely would have been an aggressive entry and it would have worked. The prices overshoot, so now I'm wondering if it's going to come back to this side and shoot past this side. Prices continue moving down. You get the first entry long. I see a potential second entry long forming right here. Right here is the second entry long. It's a good signal bar, but it's this is technically the signal bar right here. And I didn't take it, but then the trigger bar formed and it closed. So I thought, well, I don't want to chase this because there's an overshoot here that might continue an overshoot here. And I saw a potential shortened trend channel coming down. So I left it alone. Because if you did want to enter, you'd want to enter above the signal bar, which is right here. Maybe you drop an order right here. However, this is a terrible signal bar, so I just kind of left it alone completely. So I just thought, excuse me. So prices had just had an overshoot. I wasn't convinced it wasn't completing its down move yet, so I just left it alone. Turns out it would have been good enough for a scalp, and then of course it chops around. It makes a second touch here. I draw this resistance trend line, and then I arbitrarily put the bottom here as a potential channel, but I wasn't going to trust this as a channel to play off of yet because it hasn't been confirmed. I also, had this shortened trend channel and I also had this shortened trend channel working. Goes down, flashes. It kind of touches here, but I didn't like that it overshot. So it has 1, 2 confirmations at the top, 1, 2, and then this one had an overshoot, so it wasn't super clean. Comes up. I saw this as a second entry short because it's a new low here. First entry short, 1 clean leg, pulls back, second entry short, and this is the third confirmation of this descending trend channel. So this second entry short, I thought, okay, this signal bar is a little bit iffy, but it is bouncing off this or being rejected by this. So when this formed, I was thinking if I wanted to take a short and I wasn't really feeling it, I'd actually put 1 tick below and maybe write it back down because it did make 1 leg up, pull back, second leg up. So if you did put it right here, you wouldn't have gotten filled. You would have had to have placed it right 1 tick below here. But there was a concern that maybe it'll bounce off the EMA and complete the small little overshoot here. However, this little overshoot might have been accommodated or fulfilled by this small little overshoot. So then prices, this trade would have worked even if you had it 1 tick here because it would have had enough for you to get the 1 point scalp. Prices continue going up. If you went for 2 point scalp, you probably would have got stopped out. Prices continue chopping. I draw this supportive resistance trend line here, and then I wasn't sure where the top was, so I actually had it here. Then when it broke out, I thought it might have been an overshoot, but it was dwelling outside for so long, I didn't like it, so I actually drew it, connected it up here. Prices continue chopping, goes up, and I saw a fail breakout second entry short right here, because it's considered a new low, first entry short, second entry short, and then potentially a third entry short. However, the way I saw it was this hit a local high. It got stopped out 1 time, or it got rejected 1 time here. So I saw this as 1 leg up, pull back, a second leg up. And it also broke out of this shortened trend channel. So this is the first break right here. It made 1 attempt to go up to meet this high. It failed, comes back. This is the second attempt. So I saw that this uptrend has played out. So I saw the uptrend has played out. It might have a correction, at least maybe back down to here. However, I'm not 100% confident in this channel yet, but I did see it as a potential trade because it just kind of is being rejected by the day's high. And it looks like it came down. Definitely when this closed, I thought it was too late to try to take a trade because EMA is coming back into play. So you would have had to take an aggressive trade entry 1 tick below with confidence that it's going to come back down. And what would give you confidence is the first break of the shortened trend channel. So it breaks, first push up, second push up, and it would have worked out and it flashes back down. I draw this as a potential triple test, but I don't see a good entry because you have a new high, first entry long, and that's all you have. You technically have a second entry long here, but I didn't like it. It comes down, it confirms the triple test, but then you don't have a setup anymore. You could say it's a new leg down, push up, a second leg down, and this isn't a really, well, first leg down, push up, and then whether you want to call this as one leg or this smaller one as one leg is a little bit subjective. So I saw that, but I couldn't decide if this is one leg and then push up, a second leg and another leg up and another leg down, or just one leg and then a second leg. So I couldn't decide in real time, so I decided to leave it alone. Turns out it could have just been one leg down, push up, a second leg down, and this might have been a signal bar, but it's also a little confusing, a little congested. Prices continue moving up. It confirms this touch 3 times now. So when it comes back down to here, I'm thinking there's one leg up, first entry short, second leg up, second entry short. It might potentially have a bounce here now, but this is a terrible signal bar. So I'd be looking for a second entry short failure, but this isn't a very convincing signal bar. This is also not a convincing signal bar. Again, you're still looking for signal bar. Now it feels like the second entry short failure is too far away to consider a failure now. It's a full-blown second entry short, or at least one leg up, pull consolidation, second leg. So I'm not looking to go long or short now. Also, it's very close to the end of the day, so I decided to just watch the rest of the market play out. And the rest of the market just kind of plays out into the close. So overall, there weren't too many entries, too many setups that I could find. I took one trade and I think I missed, well, I don't need to think. I know I missed a pretty decent setup here, either the second entry long triple test and the higher low confirmation. And the rest of these trades are a little more iffy, a little maybe more aggressive, but definitely this trade here, I wish I had gotten and not been so, I guess, too optimistic, trying to squeeze out even more, or squeeze out a little less risk, because if I had just put it one tick above here, then I would have gotten filled and I'd been able to write it up. But instead, I said first entry long here, one leg down, second entry long, and I put it at the original signal bar. Just something to keep in mind, the price action is already telling me it's moving up. So to ask price to come all the way down here just to pick me up when it was already up here, it'd have to open probably right here where it did, come all the way down here to pick me up and then go all the way back up. So in hindsight, that wasn't a very wise decision. Maybe just a few ticks below would have been worth it, but asking it to come all the way down here or even to the EMA, which is my original hopeful entry, was probably a little bit too much to ask. I should have just entered the trade here, knowing that there's clearly enough room to the top. So that's how I saw the charts today. Hopefully that was helpful.